Deep in the mountains, nestled within a secluded valley, lay a small, quiet village. A single road snaked its way in and out, its path swallowed by dense forests and jagged cliffs. Life in the village was simple, predictable, until it wasn't. At the heart of the settlement stood an old mosque, its weathered walls whispering prayers of generations past. The villagers, devout and disciplined, gathered there 5 times a day, their voices rising in unison beneath the dim glow of lanterns. Most of them never missed a prayer. But he did. He was not an irreligious man, nor was he devout. He prayed when he remembered, skipped when he didn't. The early morning prayer was the hardest. More often than not, he would sleep through the call to prayer, his alarm clock nothing more than a muffled echo in his dreams. One night, something changed. A sound. It wasn't his alarm that woke him. It was something else, something faint, like the distant murmur of voices, layered atop each other, just outside his window. His pulse quickened. He turned his head toward the sound, but the room was empty. The night pressed in from all sides, thick and unmoving. Then a whisper. It was so close, just beside his ear. His body jolted upright. His breath came fast, uneven. He had to go. He needed to go. Not knowing why, he threw on his coat and stepped outside. The village lay in silence. Not the peaceful kind, but something else, something heavy. The usual rustling of trees was absent, the wind eerily still. The gravel beneath his feet sounded too loud. He walked quickly, the minaret of the mosque barely visible against the suffocating darkness. When he arrived, the doors were open. Inside, the mosque was dimly lit. The lanterns flickered, their flames twitching erratically, as if resisting some unseen force. The air smelled strange, metallic, faintly decayed. And it was cold. Not the usual mountain chill, but something deeper, something that clung to his skin like damp fingers. Still, the sight of the praying men comforted him. He wasn't alone. He sank to his knees, exhaling shakily, and began to pray. But something felt off. The air felt thicker. Each breath was harder to take. The voices reciting prayers sounded hollow, as if coming from deep underground. His skin prickled. He swallowed against the growing dread in his throat. Then came the moment in the prayer when one must turn their head to the left. And so he did. A mistake. They were staring at him. Every single man in the mosque. Their faces were blank. Their lips were still moving, murmuring in low, guttural tones, but their eyes, red. Not red from exhaustion, not red from tears. They burned, glowing like dying embers in the dark. His stomach turned to ice. His limbs locked, his breath caught somewhere between his lungs and his throat. He recognized some of them, neighbors, friends, elders, people he had known all his life, people who had been buried years ago. A soft sound escaped his lips, some broken mix of a prayer and a sob. The moment it did, the murmur stopped. Silence. A silence so unnatural, so absolute, it rang in his ears. Then, all at once, they moved. Not all at once. Not like people. Their heads snapped toward him in a series of delayed, jerky motions, like puppets on rusted strings. The air in the mosque collapsed around him, heavy and suffocating, pressing against his chest like unseen hands. Something shifted in the room. The walls felt closer. The darkness thickened. And then, a single step. One of them, something wearing the skin of a man, stepped forward. That was all it took. His body finally obeyed. He ran. He didn't remember leaving the mosque. He didn't remember bursting through the doors, stumbling over the steps, or sprinting through the empty village streets. He only remembered the sheer, paralyzing certainty that if he stopped, even for a second, something would catch him. By the time he reached his house, his chest was burning, his limbs trembling, his skin drenched in cold sweat. He slammed the door shut, twisting the lock with shaking hands. The clock on the wall read 3:07 a.m. Not prayer time. Not even close. His stomach churned. What woke me? His mind screamed for answers, but the deeper truth clawed at his bones. It wasn't a dream. It wanted him there. He never set foot in the mosque again. Not once. Not even when guilt gnawed at him. Not even when people asked why. Because every time he so much as looked at its towering silhouette in the distance, he saw them. And they saw him. Some nights, as he lay in bed, he swore he could hear it again, that whisper, just outside his window. Closer. Waiting.